Vigilant Shamrock might actually turn out to be the single most insane character of all time. We already know that he's a real force to be reckoned with, and he might be so much more than we ever hoped for, because evil Shanks here, I think, might actually be the Revolutionary Army's ultimate weapon, the man who will help Dragon defeat the Holy Knights once and for all. And I'm especially excited to explore all this stuff with you about Shamrock today, because he's a character I haven't really had the chance to really sink my theorist teeth into just yet. Obviously, we had his insane sword powers with the Cerberus thing, the potential for an epic devil fruit, and what I assume was gonna be a mighty clash with Luffy or Shanks or both, which was something I was really amped for, but now I'm actually not all that certain it's gonna happen. You see, despite seeing absolute beasts hit the island of God Valley during chapter 1160 here, I can't help but find the Dragon, Shanks, and Shamrock stuff more interesting than ever right now. And so while we're clearly still setting up for the big showdown between Zebek, Roger, and Garp here, let's shift away from that for a minute first to talk about the next generation after them, what's going on right now. Because I really think, looking at all this, that there's a really good chance that Shamrock, yes, this Shamrock right here that attacked Loki, could actually be a double agent. And yes, I know, before you already start typing in the comments, I know it's more likely that Garling just manages to get Shamrock back before the end of God Valley. That's an absolute possibility, but I really wanted to explore everything we know about Shamrock to see if Dragon actually manages to get him off the island here, how that would have actually unfolded in the story, and why I personally think that actually makes a lot of sense. And the general One Piece theorist community has been theorizing that someone, of course, like, I don't know, Gunko, for example, will take out the world government from the inside, or at least will betray the Holy Knights. But chapter 1160 has given me just enough, I think, to talk about how it may have actually been Shamrock who does this the entire time, which really makes me feel like a pretty classic Oda bait and switch is about to come up in the story. I mean, Shamrock's identity was revealed only in chapter 1137, and it twisted up things like a really big forkful of spaghetti. And you know that I love myself some of that classic Saucy Oda spaghetti, but I don't know about you, it kind of felt a little bit forced almost at first, right? Like, Shanks didn't need an evil twin in that moment. It's absolutely awesome, don't get me wrong, love it, love it, love it, but I've been struggling to kind of figure out, you know, the true reason that Oda threw him in the story. But now I think that Oda is truly giving us some pieces to start puzzling stuff together here in chapter 1160. So, here's what we actually know and can assume about Shamrock that's gonna really feed into everything we're gonna talk about in this video. For starters, he is the current commander of the Holy Knights, the son of Figel and Garling, and a woman from God Valley, and also, he's Shanks' older brother, even if only by, you know, a couple of minutes probably. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, based on this, there's a really decent chance that Shanks and Shamrock might actually be members of the Davy clan, or at the very least, half Davy, right? And now, after seeing how the Celestial Dragons viewed the Davy clan with the insane hatred and disgust, which honestly, even for their standard, is kind of over the top, I'm not as confident as I previously was that this might still be the case, but it still very much stands a good chance. After all, yeah, their mother is from God Valley. Also, let's face it, Garling would totally be the kind of guy, you know, that would manipulate someone he truly hates into being the mother of his children, you know, for their special abilities, before then taking her out back, smiling at her, and stabbing her. Actually, something else that kind of speaks for this, which kind of just popped into my head, was the way that Shamrock, at least I'm still assuming it was supposed to be Shamrock, you know, was talked about during his interaction with the Gorosei in chapter 907 right here. Because the reason we first think it is Shanks is that the Gorosei are annoyed, confused, and almost even seem a little bit frustrated that Shamrock, out of all people, asked to meet them during the reverie. Could this just be because of his bloodline, that they don't really want someone like him in Marizua to begin with, and now they have to meet with him? Now again, I think there's still a good chance this might have been a bait and switch, and it is just Shanks, and that would explain all of that since he was a Yonko, and I'm sure that they aren't pleased with him being back in the Holy Land, but if this is Shamrock, him being part Davy family could explain why the Gorosei are a little bit confused and annoyed at having to deal with him. By the way, the same reason they might have been so indignant that suddenly Garling was coming in and was like, yeah, I'm joining you guys, they did not like that at all. They do not like the Davy clan, and they may have only met with Shamrock because he's been appointed as a Holy Knight and then later obviously became the commander of the Holy Knights. And something else that works for Shamrock in this regard is also his sword, because it seems that it is the sword that has the power to become from the Cerberus, presumably because that sword ate the Cerberus fruit. And that would be very fitting for Shamrock if he's a member of the Davy clan, considering that Sebek said that they were hidden in, yes, the underworld. Cerberus, in case you didn't know, is the guardian of the underworld in Greek mythology, and Oda may have actually just straight up teased this half D-clan, half Celestial Dragon bloodline thing through the weapon being used by Shamrock during his introduction. It would also just be a very fun little detail considering that Shamrock was introduced in, the underworld region of Elbaf. Could have been another subtle bit of potential foreshadowing for his family roots. Alright, and I do absolutely hate to take another detour here before we get to the revolutionary stuff, but I'll make this one quick, promise, because while I was on the subject of heritage, I quickly wanted to also bring up a totally other possibility that I haven't really covered yet. Because what if Shanks and Shamrock's mother here is a member of the D clan, but she was actually a member of the Clow clan, not the Davy clan? The same one that Clover is from? I mean, first off, it makes more sense with the names, considering a Shamrock is a type of Clover, and considering that both God Valley and Ohara are in the West Blue, I don't see it being a very crazy revelation that Clover was actually from God Valley and just settled down on Ohara as a researcher. Honestly, maybe God Valley is straight up the home of several D-clan families, not just the Davy clan. Not to mention that there's a subtle little thing from 1160 that might hint at Ohara and God Valley being interconnected, which was Teach's mother. Let's be real here, she really looks like Robin and Olbia kind of, so maybe there's something going on here that will continue to get revealed as the story continues. Actually, thinking about it right now, there's totally a world I think where Shamrock was raised on Ohara and was then taken back to the Holy Land after the Busta Call. That would be absolutely epic. Alright, but detour over, let's actually get back to the Shamrock facts here. For one, I kind of want to say that he's actually pretty chill. If you actually really read his dialogue compared to most of the other Holy Knights, he's a lot more peace-oriented, if that is a thing for a Holy Knight. First off, he just offered to spare Loki's wolf companion from Gunko's wrath, he tried to peacefully recruit Loki, and he didn't kill him with the Cerberus at all. He even said, hey, totally man, just come kill me if you make it out of things alive here, after simply just declaring Elbaf would be taking over. For all we know, he even seems to mourn the loss of King Harold, as Summers assumed that Shamrock went to Elbaf to pay respect to Harold's grave apparently, which honestly makes me think that maybe he's already done that before, and it's not unheard of for Shamrock to pay respects to the people in his life that he's already lost, or that he's been on Elbaf before to pay respect to the people there, which kind of connects him to Shanks again, obviously. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I am reading this through the very hopeful lens that Shamrock is actually a good guy, but it really feels like he really doesn't share all the crazy intense views of the other Celestial Dragons. He really just calls the sea folk filth one time when he seems to be trying to separate himself from Shanks, which really didn't need to happen, right? Why did Oda feel it necessary to create this character if really all he was gonna be was an evil version of Shanks? And even if that was the only reason, then Oda should have really made him properly evil. If he really took after dear old Daddy Garling, Shamrock should be calling people slurs and killing without asking questions left and right. No, I think Oda is going much deeper with this, which, is what we love about him. By the way, have you realized that God Valley is the first time in quite a while that we've gotten some ship-on-ship action in One Piece? And if you want to get a taste of some naval warfare yourself, you should go check out Azure Lane today. And wow, I mean, these look pretty good. These are some of the updated skins and characters from Azure Lane, a free-to-play mobile game that combines RPG, 2D shooter, and tactical elements, all with a beautifully designed anime style. And I mean, come on, you can take control of World War II naval ships all in anthropomorphized anime goal form, and might I add, these character designs look like they might as well come from Amazon Lily, especially their two newest ship girls, UR Hakuho and SSR Omi, available right now. And with 8 stunning new live 2D skins available in the shop, there's never been a better time to log in and try out Azure Lane. So take control of your flotilla and battle for naval dominance by using the link in the description. Thanks so much to Azure Lane for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to talking about, well, God Valley and Shamrock. Shamrock seems to have another role in the story that I'm gonna try and crack wide open. I think that Figgle and Shamrock needed to get introduced to even the odds in the story a little, because Oda suddenly has created a pretty impossible task for all the good guys: defeating immortal warriors of Imu. Saul pretty much has confirmed to us that yeah, they're immortal. We've seen them regenerate from having limbs cut off and full of explosions in their face, and just straight up, dude, I really can't tell you how they're supposed to even die. I guess Scopper uses what we now think is Conqueror's Haki to prevent them from regenerating for a little bit, but they still don't die at all, it seems. So while the solution might be Conqueror's Haki and then a killing blow on top of that, it still doesn't change the fact that only 2 of the Straw Hats actively have been confirmed to have this type of Haki right now: Luffy and Sanji. Got you. Now honestly, I've been very torn on how our merry band of Straw Hats are ever supposed to take down this elite immortal task force with totally busted devil fruits, especially when you consider that Imu can just straight up mind steal Gunko and turn her into a vessel of abyssal destruction. Oh, yeah, and then there's the Domi Reversi for good measure too. Not a big issue to deal with. But you see, what if the Straw Hats don't actually have to deal with that? Because there are 2 other factions that Oda has been now quietly setting up to defeat Shamrock and the Holy Knights, which are the Red Hair Pirates and the Revolutionary Army. But even for them, it might just be a little bit too difficult at this point, unless that is that Shamrock is actually gonna betray the Holy Knights and team up with the people that he truly swore allegiance to. Because I think that Shamrock's whole introduction into the story was to give Shanks, Dragon, or maybe even both of them, the secret to defeating the Holy Knights from the inside. And if I did have to pick one, I'd actually go with Dragon here. Shanks just straight up might know the secret since he was up in Marijoa himself for a while growing up, but Dragon really needs an edge to defeat his fated enemies and kind of get all the inside information that he can get. And that's where I think Shamrock really comes in, and where Oda might do something very sneaky. Because let's face it, Oda's been incredibly deliberate with who and how information is getting revealed to us. The Holy Knights, just as an example, they were first name dropped by Sakazuki in chapter 1054 after King Cobra's death was framed to be the efforts of the Revolutionary Army. Then the next time they were really posed as a threat was during chapter 1083, when Dragon states that once the Holy Knights make a move, the real battle begins. And this already made a ton of sense when it first happened. I mean, Dragon hates the Celestial Dragons, ironically enough. It's only natural that he'd be most concerned about the very elite fighters up in the Holy Land since, well, you know, he's seen their power firsthand, of course, as we now know from God Valley. But now that we're also seeing what caused Dragon to leave the Marines or potentially get kicked out, I mean, he shot one of them during the events here of God Valley, it is much clearer also than ever why Dragon's true enemy have become the Holy Knights, because they are who broke his view on justice altogether. Funnily enough, it's Garling's actions that were what pushed Dragon over the edge here and turned him into the mighty revolutionary hero that he is today. So in a very quite ironic twist of fate, you could say that Garling's terrible actions during God Valley are what created the single worst threat to the world government ever. Well, with the exception of Luffy, but you get the idea. Though, actually, I guess Dragon created Luffy. When you think about it, it still works. It still works. I'll stick with it. But we also know that at the end of chapter 1160, Dragon has taken Shanks and Shamrock to safety. And obviously, we do know what happened to Shanks because he joined Roger's crew and became a pirate, but we actually don't really know what the deal with Shamrock was after this event. Because it does now seem like Dragon successfully saved him too, so let me just propose something. What if Shamrock is working with Dragon? I mean, we'll know pretty soon if this is debunked or not, but to me at least, it sounds like a fairly realistic and honestly really fun possibility. Because what if Dragon just straight up himself was the person who took in and raised Shamrock? Because let's be real, it's not unheard of that Dragon takes in a kid that he found on one of the islands that, you know, he did some stuff on. Just thinking about Sabo. Or at the very least, maybe he's been meeting with Shamrock and revealed the truth of his mother's murder to him, all in an effort to create a mole inside of the government. Honestly, ever since Gunko was introduced, people have been very quick to point out how she's dressed like a revolutionary and that she might be a double agent, but what if Oda chose to dress her that way as a really big red herring. You know, a way to push us away from the idea that Shamrock might ever actually be a good guy. It would be an absolutely gnarly twist, and I would be here for it. Heck, I don't know, maybe they're both double agents and that's why they were introduced together to begin with. And seeing as God Valley seems to be all about Dragon saving Shanks and Shamrock while, you know, Zebek saves Teach, wouldn't it be nuts if Dragon actually totally accomplished this goal successfully? Because if with all the chaos and destruction going on, Dragon was still able to get Shanks to safety and then he walked out alive after shooting at a celestial dragon, I kind of struggle to see why he wouldn't have also been able to get Shamrock out of dodge as well. Now, I want to acknowledge that there's obviously a really good chance we'll still see Garling prevent Shamrock from escaping with Dragon and just taking home and that's it, but I don't know, man, I kind of love exploring the other possibility here. Especially after we see him dual wielding these babies while sprinting away from danger in chapter 1160. We of course also see Dragon save Kuma in this chapter, so maybe that's exactly how he pulled it off. He left Shanks in a chest with Roger, and then he gave Shamrock to someone else and had Kuma paw boost them away later on. Oh, actually, another crazy insane idea. How crazy would it be if Shamrock was actually saved by Dragon and Teach's mom? Like, what if she just happens to be the person that raised Shamrock at first until Dragon or Garling eventually found him and took him in once again? That would just absolutely be awesome and kind of crazy lore from Oda, so that's how it could have happened, but why would this actually change anything in the story? Or why do I think that it changes everything? How would Shamrock being a revolutionary make sense and also change the endgame of the story? Well, it kind of circles back all the way to where it all starts. The God Valley incident. It's already been full of some actually just insane reveals, unlike anything I ever expected. Just imagine this dropping during the hype of Wano. These chapters would have been insane. Now, like you probably as well, I was prepared, butt clenched and tied, waiting for the insane truth behind Roger, Zebek, and Garb's battle, but never did I ever dare to expect Shanks, Dragon, and today's big kicker Shamrock to be the characters I'm actually most invested in at this point. On an island with some of the most legendary and influential fighters and characters in the series duking it out, I'm kind of all for the babies and, well, Marine Dragon here. And that's because, quite frankly, man, they matter more than anything else right now in the story. Teach, Shanks, and Shamrock are the people who are gonna shape the rest of this story. They are now the prime guys of this story, of Luffy's story, and they get to influence their next generation to get some stuff done. Now, don't get me wrong here, I do want to see all the cool, sick stuff that happens with the pirate legends and the Holy Knights, but they aren't quite in the picture anymore nowadays because many of them are kind of dead. Dragon and his potential little buddies, though, are the single most important players next to Luffy right now in the story, and Shamrock suddenly may have become the most important of any of them. And that's because Dragon's motives and his entire path to being who he is today start here, and that could shape how Shamrock's role in the story plays out too. Shamrock, of course, now holds the secrets to the Holy Knight's immortality and probably even a way to negate and completely counter it. He's straight up an incredibly powerful fighter that should be similar in strength to Garling or even Shanks, and that of course would let him completely flip the tides of the war if he were to rally to his brother or to Dragon's side instead. I mean, just imagine the moment Garling realizes that not one but both his sons have betrayed him and they cut him down together, or right as he thinks that Shamrock's about to kill Dragon, it's revealed that he's very ready to run it back against his dad in favor of his chosen dad, Monkey Big Dad Dragon right here. I mean, this would absolutely gut the world government and remove some of their strongest fighters, as Shamrock and Dragon and hopefully even Shanks deal with them, while Luffy's actually able to focus and settle the score with Imu and maybe the Gorosei. I think we kind of gotta face it, Luffy is probably at least not gonna defeat everyone during the final war. You know, some people need to help him. We likely won't see him run it back against Akainu and Blackbeard, plus get an epic fight against Imu and Shamrock and Shanks and Garling, you get, etc, etc, you get the idea. At some point, kind of the other factions like Cross Guild, or in this case the Revolutionaries, are probably also gonna have to pick up some of the final war slack, I hope at least, and get to do some stuff. And Elbaf might have just been the perfect piece of foreshadowing for all of that, because it's showing us that Luffy's crew also might just never be able to defeat the Holy Knight straight up, and it might be okay that they won't. Now, if you don't like this idea, I have explored how they still could in many different other videos, but like this video, they're still very much just theories. They might not pan out, and the bulk of the Straw Hats might not be able to ever take down a single Holy Knight. They might not ever learn Haki properly, Conqueror's Haki, and they might not need to again because Shanks, Shamrock, and their real savior Dragon could just handle some of these enemies for Luffy, and maybe it's just Sanji and Zoro who just jump in and can help here. And honestly, dividing the forces in battles a little bit in the endgame is not only crucial, but also very interesting. Something that is happening in the series during the Elbaf arc right now anyways, because the Holy Knights are split, between recruiting the Giants and defending Marijoa, which is currently being raided by someone. Dragon? Blackbeard? Who knows? Maybe Shamrock's role in Dragon's plan is to divide the Holy Knight's powers. I mean, we do know that Dragon has been attacking the Holy Land's resources to draw out the Holy Knights, and maybe that's because Shamrock will split them up during the final fight, making their defeat even easier. Because once Imu's hand was really forced to use the Holy Knights and sent them out, Shamrock could finally fulfill his job and weaken this broken group from the inside, opening a path for Dragon to finally strike properly. And hey, to be real with you, it doesn't even have to be Dragon and Shamrock who are teaming up. Shanks could totally have been the one that flipped Shamrock, and the two of them are now working together in secret to dismantle the system that robbed them of their mother. It would definitely be a very clever play from Oda to give Shanks a twin just to boost Shanks' power and network even further. Everyone already kind of fears Shanks' insane power, so imagine if it gets revealed out of nowhere that he's got a brother who works with him who's just as powerful as him. God, I mean, that'd be kind of absolutely nuts. Just imagine we get the two of them unleashing a sick combo attack against Garling like Dorian Broggy or Big Mom and Kaido, like the Super Griffin and Cerberus double mega uber celestial dragon killing slash. Probably gotta work out the name a little bit better, or it'd be something sick in Japanese like Soryu no Ikari. Yeah, I kind of like that one. Hey, Dragon might get in on that action himself still. Make it like a 3 Dragons smackdown. I'd absolutely love to see these three team up now that I've seen their origin story unfold, which I don't know, have not on my bingo card. But as much as I'd like to see that, there might be an even more heartwarming and tragic buildup happening instead that I need to talk about too. Look, I'm not dumb, not super dumb at least. There's a total reasonable and probably higher chance that Shamrock is actually just not a good dude. Whether this is because he was taken back to the Holy Land by his father from the get-go, or if he just had an insane power complex like Doflamingo, Shamrock might not actually be a double agent, of course. So, what would Shamrock's role be if he's not a double agent? Well, just because he's not currently a good guy, that doesn't mean he could not still flip in the future, because as I see it, Dragon could actually be waging war against the Holy Land for multiple reasons. Revenge, retribution, and to fulfill a promise. If Shamrock was taken back to the Holy Land, it means that Dragon would have failed to save the kids. He would have failed that promise that he made to Shanks' and Shamrock's mom, right? And if that were to be the case, we might actually just get a fated encounter between Shamrock and Dragon, where Dragon hits that classic anime move of, fulfilling his promise after all that long time. I can totally see Oda setting up a situation where Dragon confronts Shamrock and tells him the truth, and this might straight up crush his mental state, and then he beats the hell out of him in an effort to save him. He kinda does seem to have some of that Luffy spunk in him after all, as we see during God Valley here, so maybe Dragon needs to save Shamrock with a fist of love and some overwhelming power. Or maybe Dragon just needs to defeat Garling and show Shamrock the truth. He could show him that true power comes from freedom, love, and teamwork, not the oppressive dominance that he was probably raised with. Heck, it might even be that Dragon and Shanks are gonna be necessary to pull all of that off, and it's not that unlikely even because both of them might be raiding the Holy Land together right now. Yeah, I'm absolutely serious. Imo revealed to us during Elbaf that the Holy Land is right now on fire, and that's why Shamrock got, summoned back as a defender, but that might have been a big mistake. And if you want to know some of the deeper foreshadowing threads to Shamrock, Shanks, and Dragon being interconnected, check this video out right here where I break it all down. Otherwise, Shanks so much for watching. Shanks to our beautiful Patreons. Sorry, I'm hopping locations a lot right now, as you can tell, traveling back home. And yeah, I will see you in the next video on Tuesday. More Celestial Dragon stuff.